Ladies and gentlemen, I'm the one and only DJ Storms. Welcome back to the channel here on YouTube.com. It is Thursday, April 30th, 2020, as we are headed into May. May is tomorrow. My college semester is almost over, so that's some good news for you guys and some good news for me. I'm going to have a lot more time to upload here on the channel. I just got a few more exams to do, and then I should be home free till about June 23rd, in which I then start an online class, social media marketing actually, which that actually could help me with the brand. That could actually help me expand the brand a little bit more. It should give me some good brand promotion tactics, new ways to network. I could definitely use that. So it could definitely help the brand. It is definitely going to help me get ahead on my credits for college, as well as I am supposed to graduate next year in May of 2021. But enough about the college talk. I definitely want to thank you guys for being as supportive as you have been for the DJ Storms brand. Lightning Flash update from last week actually did very, very well. Around 150 views and around 27 likes, I believe. I'll have to go back and check the analytics, but again, I will say it again. If there's one positive that this pandemic has produced, it's that the DJ Storms brand has been on fire as of lately. I can't thank you guys enough for being as supportive as you have been. Shout out to one of my most loyal DJ Storms posse members, Christina, who celebrated her birthday yesterday on Wednesday, April 29th, 2020. She is currently 29 years old. I hope she had a great birthday. I hope it was very relaxing. I hope it was very stress-free. I hope everyone has been staying safe. And hopefully this pandemic should be over sooner rather than later, even though I don't want to go back to work, even though I don't want to get outside my house, because, I've been enjoying being a bed potato. I'm not lying to you. I've been enjoying relaxing. I've been enjoying just not doing anything, being married to my bed and all. But at the same point in time, you got to get back out there. You got to do what you got to do. You got to make a living. So hopefully this pandemic should end soon. I do miss human interaction. Don't get me wrong. I say it all the time. A couple things before we get started here on the channel. Follow me on Twitter at HistoryMakerDJS. Follow me on Instagram and Periscope at TheDJStorms. Me and Thunder are planning a Periscope this Saturday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, a few hours after I upload the Lightning Flash update. He is performing Crazy Train. If things change, I'll be sure to notify you guys. But as of right now, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Periscope. Go follow me on Periscope. The link's in the description. And, of course, add me on Facebook. All the links are in the description. For collaborations and business inquiries, send me an email. My email is stormstakeover@gmail.com. If you wish to join the official DJ Storms Posse group on Facebook, please like the DJ Storms business page, which is in the description, and I will send you an invite to join the group. If you guys missed Quarantine with Thunder, episode number 5, I may have partied a little too hard. If you want to find out what that means, go check the link. That's currently in the description right now. I have a busy 2 weeks ahead of me. Lightning Flash update on Saturday. And then, of course, the Thunderscope at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Periscope livestream. Next week, we got Quarantine with Thunder episode 6. We got another Dark Side of the Ring review. We got the rundown for Money in the Bank, which I will post on Friday, May 8th, 2020. And then, of course, the Lightning Flash update on May 9th. And then the rewind for Money in the Bank on May 11th. I got a lot of content coming up for you guys. A lot of analytical content, a lot of entertainment content. A lot of content in character, a lot of content out of character. Of course, I do these videos out of character because I feel as though it's the best possible approach that one could put forth. Now, here's what I want you guys to do. I want you to hit that thumbs up. Try and get this video to 20-25 thumbs up, which is the usual range. Although a lot of my videos have been doing 30 thumbs up. So that's definitely going to be a goal going into the summer. 30 thumbs up for almost every single video. I want you guys to comment down below what were your thoughts on this specific episode of Dark Side of the Ring. Of course, hit that subscribe button. We are on the road to 2K subscribers. I am about a little less than 20 subs away from 1.9K. My goal is to probably get to 1.5 maybe by the end of May. Wishful thinking. I'm very, very greedy. I know the progression's been slow, but come on, people. Come on. 2K. 2K, people. I've been working and working and working for you people. I've been uploading like 3 videos a week for the last month and a half. You guys can do me that one favor. Come on. But subscribe and hit that notifications bell with a huge coup de grace. That way you will know whenever I pop up on YouTube. Because whenever I pop up on YouTube, it's the best time to be on YouTube. I mean, come on. The best damn YouTuber on the face of this planet. Just had to throw that in there. And of course, last but certainly not least, Blue Riot Podcast. Shout out to the Blue Riot. If you want to go follow him on Twitter, it's at Blue Riot with 2 T's. If you want to go follow the podcast on Twitter, it's at Blue Riot Pod. Him and me, we've been having a blast doing the Blue Riot Storms review for AEW Dark and AEW Dynamite on his podcast every single week. Episode 4 is currently up on the official podcast page, wherever you find your podcast, whether that be on Anchor or Podbean or iTunes or Spotify. The link to the iTunes podcast is in the description. I want you to go subscribe. We are on episode 4. That went up at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. We also have a special podcast in the works, so I'm not going to give it away just yet, but we have a special podcast in the works. We had a lot of good stuff coming on the Blue Riot podcast. I can't thank him enough for allowing me to do the podcast with him. I have had the time of my life with him. I've had the time of my life getting my name out there in the podcast world. Even though I'm not much of a podcaster, again, I will star on podcasts. I'll be the co-host, but I can't do a podcast by myself because I'm a visual artist. I need to be in front of the camera. I want people to see my facial expressions and my mannerisms and my glorious sideburn chin strap combo. And of course, my new love stash I got going on. I know, I'm a cocky prick. But regardless of that, check out Blue Riot Podcast. Link to the iTunes podcast is in the description. Once again, thank you to the Blue Riot. Thank you to all the members of DJ Storm's Posse. Thank you to everyone who has liked, comment, and subscribed. Now, let's get into the festivities here on the channel. Dark Side of the Ring. David Schultz and the slap heard around the world. So, this documentary specifically for Dark Side of the Ring, I thought this was an excellent documentary. Now, it wasn't as dark. It didn't have a lot of stories of drug abuse or murder or all of these crazy things that would have gotten you in trouble with the law. But it did do a very good job at explaining the sacredness of kayfabe back then in the wrestling business. David Schultz, he was trained by Herb Welch, and I would not want to be trained by Herb Welch at all after hearing some of his tactics, beating the shit out of his own students. David Schultz, he was actually the toughest out of the bunch in there, and Herb Welch said, hey, you got what it takes to make it in this business. So, David Schultz, he became probably one of the best heel characters back then during the 80s. And they actually interviewed a lot of people. They had Eddie Mansfield. They had John Stossol, who's a jerk-off, by the way. They had David Schultz himself. They had Jim Cornette in there. Jim Cornette, you know, he's an idiot in his own right, but I've loved the point of view that Jim Cornette has given in these Dark Side of the Ring reviews. You know, he is out of touch. He is out of touch, and he refuses to accept that wrestling has changed, and he's refused to evolve with the times, but I will say he is very, very informative when it comes to these Dark Side of the Ring reviews. So, David Schultz, he worked with Hogan as well, and Hogan was pretty much the yin to his yang. You had David Schultz, who was the monster heel, and Hulk Hogan, who Vince McMahon brought in to be the top babyface. And it was all part of Vince McMahon's master plan to take over the wrestling industry. So David Schultz and Hulk Hogan, they were doing their own thing. Meanwhile, there was this guy called John Stossel who was famous and notorious for exposing shady businesses, so they decided to do an expose. 2020 wanted to do an expose on the WWE, and the biggest rule that they had back then is always respect the business. Do not break kayfabe. Keep the audience believing that this is real. So much so that David Schultz cut a promo with some some lady and a couple kids, and the policeman literally went to Vince McMahon's office and answered a call that, hey, someone was abusing his wife, someone was abusing his children, and Vince McMahon had to tell the policeman, no, this is a show. That was a show. It's not real. So kayfabe was big back then. So Eddie Mansfield, he did a sit-down with John Stossol and showed him pretty much everything and pretty much exposed the entire business, told him about the Blade. And John Stossol was like, oh, no, this ain't enough. This ain't enough. So he wanted to go straight to the source for him. So Vince McMahon pretty much told everyone, stay in kayfabe. Stay in kayfabe. Do not expose the business. So they went to MSG. He interviewed the Iron Sheik. And they got to David Schultz. And David Schultz, he was doing exactly what he was told to do. And John Stossel was like, I'm going to ask you the standard question. David Schultz goes, hey, standard question. I think this is fake. Think this is fake? Boom. That's an open hand slap. That's what David Schultz said. John Stossel's a jerk-off. He's an absolute jerk-off, especially what he did afterwards and how he had psychological pain because he just couldn't let the incident go. So he sued for damages, and the pain felt better after he got paid. So right then and there, he's a jerk-off. I'm all for respecting the business, and I do have a great respect for someone like David Schultz, who really does truly know what it means to be a heel. Truly know what it means to live and die by the business. You can really tell how much passion that he has for that business. And to be quite honest with you, he does really seem like a pretty decent guy. He does seem like a pretty decent guy. But obviously there are certain lines that you don't cross. And that was the line that David Schultz crossed that probably was the key factor in WWE admitting that they're sports entertainment and eventually going public in the future. Can you imagine that if that slap did not take place, can you imagine that we would have probably still be living in the kayfabe world throughout the Attitude Era? Can you imagine during the Attitude Era that the majority of people would have probably still believed that it was real? And the chain of events that followed it, it really is hard to believe. So much so that Vince McMahon had to send David Schultz to Japan. Vince had to send David Schultz to Japan. He did his work over there in Japan. And that right there, that pretty much ruined his entire career. Can you imagine David Schultz in multiple different WrestleManias? Meanwhile, you know, we're looking back on it now, and Vince McMahon brought in celebrities to try and appeal to the mainstream. He wanted to get his name in the spotlight as much as possible. He wanted to get his company's name in the spotlight as much as possible. So much so that he brought in Mr. T. David Schultz took offense to that, and because of that incident and the reputation that David Schultz got from that incident, he was legitimately handcuffed, hogtied, and had guns pointed at his head. If David Schultz never slapped John Stossel, who knows? We probably would have seen David Schultz in the main event of WrestleMania versus Hulk Hogan for the WWE Championship. Can you imagine that? Because WrestleMania 1 was the only WrestleMania that the WWE Championship was not on the line in. It was a tag team match in the main event of WrestleMania with Hogan and Mr. T going over. Can you imagine if David Schultz never slapped John Stossel and that entire incident never took place? Can you imagine we would have seen David Schultz in the main event of WrestleMania, possibly against Hulk Hogan for the WWE Championship because David Schultz was that great of a heel? Who knows? Maybe David Schultz could have taken Andre the Giant's place at WrestleMania 3. Because he was that good. He was that good. He had that essence that a true heel should have. It's crazy how one little action in a split second could set off an entire chain of events. Hogan's star continued to shine bright, and David Schultz's star continued to fade. So much so that they let him go. So he worked the indies, and the guy became a bounty hunter. I actually did not know that. I did not know that David Schultz became a bounty hunter. And he took to the job as if he was born to do it. Some of the stories that David Schultz had as a bounty hunter, I was listening in the documentary, and I'm like, Jesus, did this really happen? It's crazy to think that all of that was pretty much for nothing, because 4 years after that, Vince McMahon, after going back and forth with so many states, finally said, yeah, sports entertainment. It's a show. It's not real. Crazy to think that all the work that Schultz put forth was almost for nothing. It was almost for nothing. Yeah, Vince McMahon is a billionaire. He did make all this money, don't get me wrong, but at the same point in time, you know, he pretty much had no choice but to pretty much lift the kayfabe wall. Crazy how it all worked out. I believe it's probably a combination between the Stossol documentary, which when it was aired, people were outraged by it, especially outraged by Eddie Mansfield. But the Stossol documentary combined with that slap pretty much set off that long chain of events that transpired over years that resulted in Vince McMahon eventually lifting the kayfabe wall, and the concept of sports entertainment came to be. I really do wonder what would have happened if that slap never took place. Now, one question that a lot of people are definitely going to be asking, and I know my friend Joseph Conlon, shout out to him, he's a co-creator of the Big Fight Feel YouTube channel. He's on the road to 100 subscribers. Go subscribe to him. He brought this up on his Dark Side of the Ring review. Is wrestling real or fake? If there's one thing that really does piss me off, it's that when people do try to say that it's fake. It is predetermined, don't get me wrong. It is predetermined. It is a predetermined sport, though. It is a sport. There's no way that you cannot tell me it's not a sport. The injuries are real. You need to be in great physical shape to be able to endure the pain that the wrestlers go forth every single time they go out there and they compete in a match. If it was easy, everyone would do it. And trust me, I am probably the most outspoken individual in the entire wrestling community. I openly and willingly shit all over certain wrestlers like Jinder Mahal and Nia Jax and Alexa Bliss and Bobby Lashley and Braun Strowman. But at the same point in time, I know for a fact that they are professionally trained to do what they do, even though they suck at doing what they do. Even though they suck at it, even though they can't wrestle, and I will live and die by those words when I talk about those individuals. At the same point in time, you got to give respect for them for being able to go in there and put their bodies on the line. And at the end of the day, they are athletes. You can't tell me that they're not athletes. Sports entertainment or not, predetermined or not, scripted or not, yes, the characters are not real. Yes, the winners are determined before they enter that ring. But at the same point in time, if you are willingly putting your body out there and you are willingly sacrificing yourself, probably sacrificing many years off your life, which a lot of wrestlers have, sacrificing your entire body. You take a look at some wrestlers back in the day that have scars all over their heads from about how many times they got hit with a steel chair and they busted themselves open, how many times they bladed themselves. At the end of the day, how can you not consider these guys athletes? at the end of the day, yes, it may be predetermined, may be scripted, but at the end of the day, every single person that has stepped into that ring and competed in a match is and always will be an athlete. The injuries are real. The pain is real. The suffering that people have had to go forth in training alone to be able to do a quarter of the shit that is done in that ring. It's real. It's legit. There's not a single person on this planet that is going to tell me that pro wrestlers are not athletes. Predetermined, yes. Scripted, yes. But every single time a pro wrestler steps into that ring, they are putting their body and their life on the line. They are fighting. They are going in there and they are enduring unimaginable pain, whether you want to admit it or not. Again, if it was easy, everyone would do it. Back to David Schultz. I still wonder what his career would have been. I still wonder how big of a career he would have had. Of course, it does raise the question that if Vince McMahon did move towards sports entertainment, as he did 4 years after the incident, if David Schultz never slapped John Stossol, if John Stossol's documentary caused the uproar that it did, regardless of the slap, and David Schultz was still in a prime position to be the top heel, and Vince McMahon had to eventually transfer over to sports entertainment, and he admitted to the public that, yeah, it's a show. It does make me wonder, because they did say that they were moving towards a little bit more of a cartoonish type role. They had all of these different types of cartoons themselves, these action figures. It was turning more towards a family-friendly television show. I don't know what it would have been. I don't know how things would have gone for David Schultz in that type of era, in that type of environment. I don't think you can really dial down a guy like David Schultz, who was probably the best bad guy of that time. Every single time he was in front of a microphone, the guy legitimately made you want to see him get his ass kicked. Probably would have been a great heel. But, you know, WWE, they do have a tendency, even back in the day, they do have tendencies of watering things down and making them very cookie cutter. David Schultz was not a cookie cutter heel, as Jim Cornette said. David Schultz was legit as you can get as a heel. It really does make me wonder. But I thought the overall documentary was very well produced, as always. I say it every single time. It is the perfect blueprint if you're looking to do a wrestling documentary. I can't wait for next week. And I don't know what else I could say. I did go on a little bit of a tangent about whether wrestling's fake or not. My apologies for that. I know a lot of you love seeing me rant and all that. But ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up this video. That wraps up this Dark Side of the Ring review. David Schultz and the slap heard around the world. Thank you so much for tuning into this video. Thank you to everyone for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe as per usual. Check out all the links in the description. Lightning Flash update will go up on Saturday afternoon. And of course at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time is the Thunderscope live stream where Thunder will be performing Crazy Train. I hope you guys have a great day. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you guys on Saturday.